2 of the first weekly of the Season 3 Eternal Tournament series. I am once again joined with aReNGee, and we're jumping into the reigning champion from the Season 2 Invitational, iReedMinds, on his famous Big Homebrew list, against the Overmaster on a Rakano Armory list.
Yeah, and we've got hand cam technology, that which was lost but has now been found again. So we're going to be able to see both sides of the action, which I know you guys are all as excited as me about.
Yeah, and
looking at
interesting start for both players. Overmaster with some of these weapons to be able to go ahead and chunk out iReedMinds units, but not a superb game you're playing against the Big Homebrew deck.
Well, this is a bit of a tough matchup for Armory, as the Big Homebrew decks have a lot of big value cards, units that are tough to break through with just your unbuffed weapons. But Overmaster does have the turn 2 Artisan, and that is always a good start in getting his weapons to be bigger later on. But he's got not a great follow-up on turn 3, looking into the Seraph here. So it'll be interesting to see if he decides to go for some sort of torch-assisted line.
Yeah, and I kind of actually would like to see him try and get in here with this Rakano Artisan, but going to elect not to. iReedMinds missing a power drop, though, so that's going to put him behind slightly, deciding what he wants to do at this point. Probably going to put this Cumbria Healer on Seraph and go ahead and start pushing the damage in, and this makes this Seraph super resilient.
Yeah, 7 health is not easy for Armory to take down. And Seraph, of course, only having 3 power is not in Vanquish range, so none of the normal Armory cards can deal with it this early on in the game.
Ooh, except that one, apparently. So, see a huge Orgrun Hammer picked up there by the Overmaster. 7-4, cleans up his Seraph perfectly, and puts him in a pretty decent position. iReed still lacking power, going to have to fire off something here. Probably going to see like a Temple Scribe, but
Overmaster shows his mastery of the Armory deck by instantly top decking the exact answer that he needs, a 7-4 weapon, and now he's going to make that a 7-8 weapon with the help of the relatively new card Throne Warden, and that's going to be able to chop through just about any 4 or 5 drop that iReedMinds can play for a fair while, actually, putting Overmaster in a pretty commanding position off a single top deck.
yeah, iReed is certainly pushing, being pushed up against the wall right now. Going to have to find a nice answer to this 7-8 weapon that Overmaster is now packing. And Overmaster has Roland's favor to continue keeping this weapon big and on the table.
Yeah, Reed deciding not to just toss his desert or his Martial Ironthorn out there is now considering whether or not he wants to overcommit or to come a little bit further with the Folk Reinforcer. Looks like he chooses to, and interesting that he decides the Artisan. Obviously, the decision only really matters on the table for the purposes of Smuggler's Stash bringing them back.
Yeah, otherwise not too impactful, and Overmaster in complete control of this game right now. iReedMind's going to need to find some sort of gas to get out of this situation, because this 7-7 weapon is certainly beating down pretty hard, and the Jarf Chain Flail is right there to back it up as soon as this one goes down. So Overmaster not lacking on ways to remove units or deal damage.
Yeah, and I think Reed misses a bit of an attack there. Could have poked for one with the what's that called now? Temple Scribe.
Temple Scribe, yes.
The 1/1, the 1/1, because Overmaster only left his 2/1 back to block, and wouldn't have been an ideal trade there. But still, Overmaster has the Vanquish, which draws the Protect, and he's still able to keep his weapon alive for the short term. So still able to chop down these units, but he's gonna need to deploy a second weapon soon.
Yeah, and here is his only out right here. Reed is going to need to rip something really sweet, and Valkyrie Enforcer is a good start. Allows him to put 2 threats on the board. This is going to force Overmaster to burn a lot of turns cleaning things up with the weapons, but actually his Throne Wardens themselves are pretty threatening. iReed might just have to accept that he's probably going to lose here. He's going to have to make some bad jump blocks. And yeah, we see him
He can make
busting
a
2
double
units.
block here.
Yeah, that's be bad though when you're behind, and like Overmaster's obviously holding 4 cards. Like I think that's going to spell the end of this. Yeah, iReed gonna go ahead and get his Sandstorm Titan down, but we're gonna see Overmaster reply with a Charchain Flail and push his. So that will go ahead and close out game 1, and Overmaster getting not a surprise victory, but definitely capitalizing on iReedMinds having a very slow start, like not a lot working, and he got a little power screwed. So the armory deck able to capitalize on that and take advantage and just push him down with that massive weapon. I mean, the 7-4 was really just stole the show, coming out of nowhere, picking up the huge kill on the Seraph, and then being able to be buffed the next turn with the Throne Warden.
Yeah, so now we're moving into the sideboard here, and we've got both players' boards up. Interesting cards on both sides. Obviously, there's an armory deck on the table, so I imagine those decays will be coming in for iReedMinds. Harsh Rule, not exactly the card that you usually want. The Throne Wardens have Aegis. The 2-drops don't really matter that much. And Stand Together probably going to come in against the opposing Harsh Rules. But Big Combry definitely has a strategy against Armory, and that is put a bunch of fat units in the way that there aren't large enough weapons to take down.
Yeah, that is a lot of their game plan. And we see on the other side of the table, Armory trying to find things to sideboard in, and actually really just kind of lacking here. Didn't put in Protector Ruin, no Champions of Glory. I think, yeah, the Valkyrie Enforcers did at least come in, and he did bring in 2 Furnace Mages currently as well. So he at least did bring in 4 cards, but basically just bring in some extra units with some effects. Nothing too big here. Didn't have a huge sideboard game plan for this Big Combry deck. Not that Armory has the best plan against them anyway, truthfully.
Yeah, interesting that we see his top end configuration was 2 Stonescar Mauls to Ikaria, and no die shows to be seen, nor any Sword of the Sky Kings. So just a bit of a different combination of cards than maybe some of the other Armory lists that we're used to seeing. A bit more aggressive of a choice there.
Yeah, definitely. No Sword of the Sky King, like you said. We do see 1 die show in the sideboard, but it is not getting brought in for this matchup. Obviously, doesn't match up particularly well with a lot of iReedMinds unit values. So see them getting into the game. iReed looks like he should have a much smoother start here. Got both colors of power represented, and he's got 4, so not going to be behind getting that Sandstorm Titan down. Overmaster, on the other hand, gets his Rakano Artisan down, gets all his weapons buffed up. You could see the same train again. This is starting to look really familiar.
Continues to show his mastery of the top of his deck as he top decks the Justice Sigil right on time. Here we'll probably see him throw that attack out again, I imagine.
Well, actually, in game 1, he didn't attack there, and he opts for the same line. So we're seeing this play out very much the same. Ooh, iReed's actually going to get to capitalize on this torch play of Overmaster, and wisely deciding not to. Doesn't want to get burned by that protect that we do see iReed holding. And iReed getting the Sandstorm Titan down now, and all of a sudden Overmaster is going to have a real problem dealing with this. He's got a lot of units in his hand, but all of them match up very poorly with the 5/6 body of the Titan.
I imagine he'll go for the Torch plus Sword of Ikaria line to take down the Sandstorm Titan. And does so.
Yeah, very
true. Yeah,
true.
trades 2 for 1, but...
Yeah, it's one of those things you have to do. It feels terrible when you're trading the sword and the torch, but you are right. Like, that's the line he's going to have to take there. Otherwise, the 5/6 Titan just gets out of control. Overmaster going to need to pick up another power, and I'm curious to see if he's going to go ahead and slow roll his turn or get something like a Furnace Mage down. And I think, well, he moused over Rise to the Challenge, so it looks like he's willing to take this a little bit slower. Let's see what threat he fishes out.
He's a little bit hampered here since his best card is probably the Runehammer, but he doesn't have the second Justice in order to actually play it, and might actually need to go for a different line for one of his, less color-intensive cards, and goes for the Sword of Ikaria. Still large enough to take down a Sandstorm Titan or a Martial Ironthorn, but not as Justice heavy.
Yeah, definitely. And we do see that problem of Overmaster lacking the double justice. Really would like to get this Valkyrie Enforcer down or this Runehammer and be able to shut some of these threats down. But he's going to have to make a choice here on which one he values taking out. If he's going to have to value Seraph or Martial Ironthorn. And it looks like he will take Martial, which is definitely a hard decision to make. Seraph is either going to put you to 8 life on this turn, or if iReed hits a power, he's going to see an activation go off that.
Yeah, it's not an easy choice, but based on the composition of iReedMinds' hands, it looks like he made the correct one, since no power to be found, and those Mystic Ascendants are definitely more threatening with the Martial Ironthorn on the board than the Seraph herself.
Yeah,
Um,
certainly. Overmaster, I feel like needs to get this with Recano Artisan down and then play the Charchain Flail as a 2 cost, since it'll still be a 4/3, and he'll be able to take out this Mystic Ascendant. But he still has to be wary of the Seraph getting any activations off here. Those units could easily be much too big for Overmaster's weapons once he finally gets them online to actually deal with.
so I said something kind of silly in game one where I talked about stash value, as the Overmaster is actually just playing a straight Recano version of Armory and has no access to stash. So there's no line to be taken about improving your Charchain Flail to bring it back later or anything like that. And once the Aegis is off the Throne Warden, it doesn't actually matter which units are silenced; they don't do anything.
Oh yeah, that is very true. Yeah, interesting that you mentioned that, because normally, yeah, we are used to seeing stash and one or two other shadow cards show up in Armory, but this is a straight Recano Armory build, trying to streamline the power base, since he wants to play so many of the influence heavy cards like the Valkyrie Enforcer, the Throne Warden, these Furnace Mages in the sideboard, and all the various weapons that you'd see Armory normally playing.
Yeah. Now Reed is in a pretty good position. He's got the Protect to defend against Harsh Rule or Vanquish or what have you, and the Mystic Ascendant is an 8/8 is pretty big and is going to be very difficult to break with just a weapon. So
Ooh, and
we
this is interesting here. Would you have protected against the Mystic?
I think so. Power in hand. The only card that punishes you is exactly Vanquish on that power base. And here we see a decay in case his opponent ever gets something large enough to actually stop him. So I think it's a fine line. Most players would not have led with the Valkyrie there if they vanquish anyways. You'd usually see the vanquish first. So I think that sequencing wise, it's okay, but could have gone really well for Overmaster if he was slow rolling the
Yeah, that's what I
vanquish.
was thinking. Is if he had had that slow roll Vanquish tucked away, that could have been maybe not a huge blowout, but certainly helped him. Unfortunately for him, though, I think the game is just going to be over in a turn or two. We're going to see this decay come down to pop the weapon off at some point, and in the meantime, iReed can just keep powering up this Mystic Ascendant and pressuring with these very high value and high statted units he's got in play.
I am very scared of an aggressive double block on the Sandstorm Titan that lets the Mystic Ascendant go through to put him to 1, that then gets totally blown out by a decay kill. But no, Overmaster plays it far closer to the vest than I would have, and is rewarded with a Harsh Rule draw, which Reed cannot actually answer.
Yeah, and this is pretty important. This is going to be a slight reset for him. iReed's going to need to dig up gas. He's got these decays to handle the weapons, but if all he has is power and a Valkyrie Enforcer, it's entirely possible we'll overmac into this game somehow. So I have a feeling we'll see the first decay get fired off when this comes in.
Because of these decay, or Overmaster is really going to need to find a unit answer to these cards, which means that Akaria is probably his best out against that flyer. Tough to kill, gives his next unit and stuff a lot of bonuses, and I think that drawing that is his best line. Otherwise, he's slowly going to bleed down to
Yeah, I
this.
think Akaria is his best line. Valkyrie Enforcer also acceptable here. Would be okay being able to silence the flyer and put it back on the ground. iReed hitting a Temple Scribe here. Ooh, hits a protect. This is going to be a removal, not going to be good here. So we're probably going to see this Harsh Rule get fired off. Ooh, but the Valkyrie Enforcer pickup is pretty big here. That's going to be able to, after the Valkyrie Enforcer out of iReed's gets protected, we'll see this Valkyrie Enforcer come down, silence it, and then ultimately just block it next turn. He doesn't die.
So an interesting series of draws from both players, but one that seems to be working out in favor of Overmaster in that he's not yet dead, but he's definitely on the back. However, if iReedMinds continues to peel power, Overmaster could draw out of it.
Ooh, and both players ripping power now. iReed's got these fine ways though, and this is pretty important. This is going to thin almost all the rest of the sigils out of his deck. Going to be very little power left in his deck, 8 total or 7 total. And it's an Inspire here. He's looking for not a sigil and still hits a Sin's also not particularly great. Ooh, and a Scorpion Wasp. This is going to be the 1 point he needs to push through and win the game right here.
Yeah, it looks like I'm actually a little bit behind on both of these streams.
Yeah, you see the game get taken though. So that Scorpion Wasp was enough. He did dodge like a torture or anything type of out. So we will be getting into a game 3, players splitting one apiece.
All right.
And let's see, going back to the game plan a little bit, out of the Armory deck, we see the Furnace Mages coming out, one going back in, and he upped the count of another one of his spells. Might have been a Harsh Rule, might have also been an Armor Smith. Not seeing any adjustments out of iReed, though, so he decided he was comfortable with his hand. Or deck rather, after the last sideboarding phase. Definitely seemed to work out pretty well for him. He's able to take that game very easily. Decay is such a very strong sideboard card for the Big Combry deck against a type of armory deck, something that's playing this many weapons and relying on them so heavily for its game plan.
I'm just not super sure what the Furnace Mages are in for, in all honesty. Reed doesn't really have any major relics that those would be obvious choices to take out. So I guess they're just there for the 4/3 body.
Yeah, I guess they're just here to add more units to the board. I feel like Overmaster feels like he needs to commit more units, possibly because he realizes iReedMinds is on the Decay sideboard plan, and he's just worried about having his weapons immediately blown up for very little value.
So Overmaster is going to have a pretty big sword, or a 3/4 sword coming down on the third turn, presumably. And that's not going to be answered for a little while by Reed. So he should be able to get some quick Warcry triggers in, and that is very good for the Armory deck, as Warcry on weapons is really your primary game plan against these big unit decks.
Yeah, absolutely, and a very interesting hand. iReed's going to be really slow here, so this sort of card is going to get off 3 attacks guaranteed here. And if Overmaster can keep hitting power, he's actually got like a really sweet, he's got a really sweet hand to build into. He's got the Auric Runehammer. He also has the Ikaria and the Stone Scar Maul, so that Ikaria will probably come in big time help in this matchup. Overmaster currently just deciding what he is going to do with the remainder of his turn. Actually decides to play it very, very slow and safe. Decides that he's going to keep back at the armor and the Roland's favor for another turn, probably to buff either the Stone Scar Maul or the Auric Runehammer when they come down.
I'm a little bit surprised by that play, in all honesty, as he doesn't have a power drop for the next turn, so you would have expected the Roland's favor to come out, even just to get that power flowing. As if he doesn't draw anything, he's probably going to need to play next turn anyways. But apparently he values the armor on a weapon over top of the actual the sigil search, and seemingly could work out for him here.
Yeah, this is putting him in a little bit of an awkward situation, though. Gonna probably Roland's favor now, but not really the game plan he was looking for. I think he would have much preferred actually to get that Auric Runehammer down this turn and bash the owl, but not gonna matter anyway. iReedMinds just pushing in a little bit of damage, so now we're definitely gonna see this Runehammer come down. But there is a Desert Marshal, unfortunately for Overmaster. I have to imagine we're going to see this get played just to eat the swing on the weapon. We will see the Armor Smith come down, so this will actually defend the hammer against the 4/4 flyer, which is pretty nice. And iReed finally picking up his 6th power, going to be able to start getting these Mystic Ascendants down. Hopefully on his turn, going to actually have some extra power and sigils to go ahead and play with them to really get the buffs rolling. And Overmaster pretty light on power himself as well, unfortunately. And this is a very interesting decision. It looks like he's deciding whether or not he wants to go ahead and throw the double torches, and he is going to commit double torches to a single owl so that he can go ahead and bash face with this weapon.
Yeah, that slow rolled Roland's favor just didn't really pay off for him, as it really pinched what he could do on each of his turns for the next couple. So decides to go for those double torches. Yeah.
Yeah, and we do see a miss, and it does come down as a 6/6. Ooh, and iReed picking up a great Parliament. If he hits another power next turn, the Owls are going to be some serious business. And Overmaster got to decide here. I kind of actually liked getting the Stone Scar Maul down into play, though it is very risky against the Decay. You do have to be worried about that. And we do see iReed pick up the Decay, although he isn't able to play it in the same turn. Interesting decisions all around here. Definitely going to see the Stone Scar Maul come down to clean this one up. And we're going to see this Ikaria come down at some point, probably after these Owls get in, I have to imagine, on the next turn. We'll probably see the Owls come crashing in, and then we'll see the Ikaria follow up. And that might give him a surprise lethal if Overmaster does have the power. And I think at this point, you're going to have to play Auric Runehammer Roland's favor to just clean this board up.
And ensure that you get that Ikaria next turn.
Yeah, definitely need to ensure that the Ikaria comes down next turn. That is a key part of your game plan. And since you already know one of the Owls is almost assuredly going to be hitting face this turn, you can probably get the Ikaria in for free. Just kind of sneak it in and then also hold down his flyers for the next few turns. And, notably, we missed the Decay, though. So that actually does put quite a wrench in Overmaster's plan for the moment. Still going to be able to get the Ikaria down, but we'll be taking 8 this turn, with 8 at least follow up. Yeah,
Elects not to slow roll the Roland's favor here.
Yeah, doesn't slow roll that one, and he's going to have to get in with this Ikaria. I think that's the only way.
Yeah, Seraph comes down to block the 3/3 and keep him safe. Does go for the Ikaria line, so we'll have to see what that hits.
Unfortunately, it's not going to matter, though, because we did see the Valkyrie Enforcer Vanquish hanging out in iReed's hand, so iReed is just going to be able to clean up the Ikaria and actually go ahead and close out that series 2-1 over Overmaster. And we are going to jump into actually a side match. We have Ilyak on Felonscar Control, I believe was the deck. And he's going to be getting into a matchup. So we will be going ahead and hopping over to his. I believe they are in game 3. So let's go ahead and check this out. Felonscar Control, interesting choice out of Ilyak. I think he's played Felonscar before, but I cannot remember.
Yeah, he played it after Neon really popularized the deck with his article, I believe.
Yeah, and he's playing a semi-standard. He's got a Varifate Touch and an Azendal's Gift in the main, so those are interesting. Not crazy cards, but interesting. And he is up against as this BigBootyJudy on Combri, as Big Combri. Okay.
Oh, and we see another stand together out of Judy here. So denying that that Annihilate there and getting a whole bunch of damage in there. We've got probably the biggest Desert Marshal I've ever seen at a 7/6. And EK does have the Black Sky Harbingers to take down those Aegis and get him a bit of life back, but it's going to be a slow climb back from where he is, and he's going to take a lot of damage in the meantime.
Yeah, definitely going to be a slow climb. I have to imagine we'll see some double or triple blocks even here. Yeah, trying to clean up some of these units. And yeah, it goes ahead and gets at least the 5/5 down, but Ilyak getting pushed down to 10 here. Not a very comfortable place to be. Going to gain a little bit of life here and be able to block with the Black Sky Harbinger, but not the most comfortable position in the world.
I think he could have triple blocked the 7/6 there. It doesn't work in the face of obviously another stand together, which may have been what he was playing around. But you get the same 1 unit for 1 trade if that specific card doesn't happen.
Yeah, and this is interesting. Ilyak deciding how to make a block here, and yeah, this is what I would have much preferred to see right there. Get the triple block in here. Even the stand together isn't enough. So we'll see the Black Sky Harbinger go down, but it did its job. It gained you some life, and it took down another unit. Since we already know Ilyak holding the Black Sky Harbinger and the Withering Witch, probably going to see this Permafrost get fired off first to check for a stand together, and then a Death Strike, I imagine, behind it if stand together is the spell. Nope, all clean. So Ilyak just getting in a little bit of damage and holding this Death Strike up to try and kill whatever BigBootyJudy is going to get down this turn.
That was an aggressive attack in the face of a potential Desert Marshal. He does have the Death Strike for backup, but that was a bold attack.
Yeah, it is a very aggressive line, I will admit, but I think Ilyak, one of the better players we have here on the Eternal Tournament Series circuit, and I think he recognizes when he needs to get in there, and he definitely feels that way. Goes ahead and fires off a Sabotage and misses completely, so nothing he's looking for there. Still holding plenty of removal, though, kind of just putting the game on BigBootyJudy and forcing him to find threats. And those are threats. Those are certainly some threats, and threats that I don't actually think he's going to be able to beat. He's going to have to permafrost the 7/7 and then Withering Witch to reduce the Seraph to a 7/1, but he's still going to eat at least 3 damage. That's the line he's got to take. There's no other play here. Statue of Maiden's fine too, I guess. It accomplishes relatively the same goal, but ooh, with the protect out of BigBootyJudy's hand, that is actually
going to take it.
Yeah, and we're going to see BigBootyJudy pick up the series 2-1 over Ilyak in this game 3 that we just jumped into on his Big Combri list. So Big Combri back-to-back rounds or back-to-back matches, putting up very good showings. Would have liked to have seen the full game there. Looks like Ilyak is a bit short on power, but nonetheless, Big Combri bringing it home 2 times in a row.
So playing the Sabotage on 6 power instead of playing one of his Black Sky Harbingers to try to get his life total back into a better state and contest the board ended up really hurting him there, as he just didn't have the removal spells to sit back on anymore, and got punched down by the double units out of Judy.
Yeah, that is definitely something to note. BigBootyJudy was able to just get down the Seraph and the Valkyrie in the same turn and kind of put a very big problem on him, and it really did start with the sabotage fired off. I thought that was kind of an interesting decision to get the sabotage off instead of the Black Sky Harbinger. I figured Ilyak would have felt like he was pressured a little bit more into putting something on the board and trying to be the more aggressive deck, even though he's so far behind. At least getting threats down, if not to attack with, to at least defend your life total with. Black Sky Harbinger notably having that life steal, able to stabilize you in some of those late game situations, but just unfortunately not going to be enough there. BigBootyJudy going to overcome with that protect. And yeah, so that is about to do it for round 2. Before